Good afternoon, everyone. Alan Whitford from rcero.com, and we're back in the job site interview booth with another sterling set of guinea pigs on the couch, so to speak. We're coming to you from the TruLondon Unconference near Brick Lane in London. And for those of you who don't know, an unconference, as we've been telling over the last few streams we've had here, it is an unstructured way of getting together and talking. There's no PowerPoints, there's no presenter talking at us. It's about people talking with each other. And what we're trying to do in these streams that are hosted by Jobsite and JSTN is to actually recreate that experience for those of you that couldn't actually make it to London today. If you're following us on Twitter, the hashtag is TruLondon, that's TRU London. And we also have a question facility, so if you have any questions to ask our panel, use the TruQ, TRUQ hashtag, and we'll be able to put those questions to our panel. So, guys, who are you and what are you doing here today? Maren?
Okay, I'm Maren Hogan. I'm a TruLondon alum, and I enjoy coming here. I'm a marketer that works with HR and recruiting facing companies.
I'm Charlie Duff. I edit hrzone.co.uk. So I'm a journalist, not a HR practitioner, but I come to these conferences, I cover them as a journalist, and I'm interested in all employability issues.
I'm Damon Klotz, the HR rockstar from Brisbane, Australia, and this is my first TruLondon conference. And I also blog at damonklotz.com.
Hi, I'm Rhiannon. I'm from Graduates Yorkshire. I head up all the marketing there, so here we're interested to hear all about employability and obviously how we can get graduates jobs in Yorkshire.
Great. Well, I think it's interesting. We talked about employability, and we had sort of a stream off camera before everybody came in, and we were off and running about the fact that perhaps the experiences that Maren and I might have had when we first started our careers versus the experiences you guys have had now is quite different. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your story, about how you got into your existing role? What sort of tools did you use? What sort of connections did you use? How did you actually get your current job?
Okay, well, where I am at the moment, obviously I work for Graduates Yorkshire for all the marketing. When I graduated, I went into recruitment, and then I went travelling for a year and taught English. When I came back, I really wanted to get into marketing, but obviously I had no marketing experience. I didn't have a marketing degree. I did psychology at university. So basically I sent out my CVs to people and no one was interested in looking at me. I didn't hear any feedback. So I thought to myself, obviously if I want to be a marketer, I've got to market myself. So I started getting on Twitter. At first I thought it was a load of rubbish. Within a month I was addicted. I met some really, really important people. I met Carl Hopkins from Secret Millionaire that helped me kind of link up with other contacts around the country. I spoke to Claire Young, who was on The Apprentice, and it just gave me the option to speak to people that I normally wouldn't have been able to speak to. If I picked up the phone, they wouldn't have spoken to me at all. And basically, I thought I had to demonstrate my experience online. So I started networking, both online and going to offline events. And I got my job in the end by talking to the CEO of Graduates Yorkshire about leads and places to eat. So we started a kind of relationship there. So when I tweeted out, I'm looking for a job in marketing, he's like, actually, we're looking for someone at the moment. Sent it across to me, and that's how I got the job there. And every other interview I got was through Twitter as well.
Fantastic. Eamon, how about yourself?
Well, I started networking at the age of 19, so that was 3 years ago, and that was before Twitter was even really big in the way that it is now. So I was forced to learn the face-to-face skills, how to go meet people at networking events, really put myself out there. What I found was, in Australia as a HR professional, I differentiated myself without even trying by being the student who would get out there and put himself in the mix with professionals, willing to listen. And from a networking point of view, I didn't necessarily have a story yet, but if anything, that was my greatest strength because it gave me the chance to listen. And one of the best networking skills is to listen. So I listened to everyone's story for possibly, a good year, just going to as many events, meeting people, listening to people. Then I got an opportunity through networking to get a part-time job, and that was whilst I was still studying. So I had my HR degree going full-time and working 3 days a week in a HR role, in an admin role, getting all those skills, which is really important from the start. And then from there, every job I've gone through has just been through networking ever since. And then social media has sort of come into it, and that's now formed a part of my role and looking at how my current organisation can use social media.
Wow, quite good. And you mentioned the number of jobs you've gone through. Is that within one employer, different responsibilities, or you've had lots of jobs already?
No, it's all been with the same employer.
Okay.
So the employer that I started with through networking at the age of 19, I'm still with. And I went through 2 positions with them while studying. I then went through their grad program, where it was a 12-month program going throughout the state of Queensland, doing different HR roles, and now I've taken up a new contract with them.
Fantastic. And Charlie, I mean, you've kind of wear both hats when you come to these events because you contribute, you're part of the participate, you're part of the streams, as well as doing the reporting. But really, at quite to be responsible for the kind of journalism you are at really quite a young age is fantastic. And I think in pre-online world, that probably never would have happened, would it?
No, I don't know. I mean, my first editor is a guy called Jason Speller, and he still works for the HR Director magazine, which was my first ever job straight out of journalism school at Cardiff. But he actually became an editor when he was 20. So, people have edited magazines from a really, really young age. But I think with the networks being so much bigger and the audience being so much bigger, then yeah, it is a big responsibility, and but it was one I was really keen to take on. So what happened to me was I was at university studying international relations, and I loved it, and I still do. But at the same time, I joined the university newspaper and realised that was kind of what I wanted to do. So I followed in my university papers editor's experience and went to Cardiff to study magazine journalism. And while I was there, there was a lot of people saying, I want to be a sports writer, I want to be a food writer, and I was like, well, I'm going to look at where I can really add value, and I decided to look at business-to-business publications, and it just so happened that there was, the HR director was taking on an editorial assistant, so I started working there, and it gave me a real niche and a real sort of insight into HR issues, and your first day at work. Well, the next topic is going to be engagement. Engaged employees are much better than non-engaged employees. I was like, really? So what happens when they get married? Okay, and they were like, no, we mean a different type of engagement. So it sort of gives you start learning the language, you start learning what it's all about, and then a maternity leave cover came up at Civ Media for the website called HR Zone. And I was lucky enough to get that, and well, I'm still there now, and it's I think I'm for 18 months there now, so
fantastic. And Miriam, you've been working a lot with people newly coming into the workforce now. Are you seeing a change in how they have to fight for, or even get engaged and be employable, as opposed to what 10 years ago?
Yeah, I do. I mean, my own story is a little bit similar to yours in terms of I start out in B2B publications, but there wasn't the sort of not fast track, because I mean obviously the work is good, but you didn't have a larger network, and we've talked about how social media can be kind of an accelerant. Yeah. But I'm noticing now that I have to help a lot of new job seekers to say, okay, you do need to network, you do need to do the face-to-face stuff. The humility and asking questions and listening piece is something that very, very few job seekers actually understand. And I think that kind of, in one sense, separates the wheat from the chaff. So there's definitely a lot of differences. I do think that one of the similarities is that when you go after a career, whether you started in 2000 or 1999 like I did, or 2009, 2010, you still have to have accountability for your job search. And I mentioned that earlier, that I think that job seekers need to have a tremendous amount of accountability and the willingness to learn. That's huge. And I think that's kind of a common theme throughout these three stories that we've heard. So some differences, some similarities.
But when you've done networking, you said you went to a lot of offline events as well, and Charlie, you've been to a number of the True events, and you've been to a couple, you even helped lead a track in True Manchester, which must have been a little daunting for you.
Yeah, I'd only been there a couple of months in the job then, so yeah, it was really exciting. But that's the thing, when you work, when you kind of network your way into a job like that you can demonstrate your experience. And I think first of all, they knew that I was really into my social media, so I could go to an event like that, and they did trust me to kind of lead a track and do that. And I think when you see young people in business now that are doing stuff like that, people find that really exciting and they want to join in and have discussions.
Do you think the unconference style of method has been more appropriate for you to do that, rather than going to, say, more traditional conferences, with the speaker at the front and you in the audience? What about for you?
Yeah, I think the conversation is definitely a lot richer in a conference like this. Like, especially for a young person coming in, a normal conference is quite daunting. Where you've got the keynote speakers who are put up on the website months before, and they're all elite and they've done the research for 25 years, and no one should ever challenge them. And you sit there and you listen and you be polite. And then
You should challenge us,
Because
but
we
that's
know
okay.
everything.
and there is that sort of really formal nature
I
of it.
feel it, yeah.
Where this is, people are getting challenged as soon as they say something. The conversation is open. You get to meet everyone. If you don't like it, you can walk in, walk out. So from that point of view, the conversation is great.
And there's some pillars, pillars that we've always believed in being knocked over. And there are a lot of people here that really want to get into your heads and say, so what do you think? What do you think of this process or this product or this service? How does it affect you? I mean, granted, it's in a broad generalization way, but I think you guys add so much to the conversation.
So what did you think of the track yesterday? Did you take part in that? Was it about the 6 graduates and some of did you guys participate in that track and work with them? So what was that like?
And it was really, really interesting. It was obviously got a bit fiery at some points. They were applying for just the typical graduate training schemes, which is something at Graduate Yorkshire. Obviously, it's good if you can get in there, but there's huge competition for those roles. And something that I think that we've all found similarly, that working for small SMEs or small companies, you can really develop your skills there and the kind of responsibilities that you get given. I mean, I've been in the role 7-8 months. I get to come to events like this. I get to go to dinners with CEOs and executives. I get lots of opportunities you don't normally do. And I think it was trying to educate them that they don't need to be so narrow and they need to open up for their search.
Do you think that the products and services that, since you've been in the HR world, the ones being offered really hit on the big business, on the Fortune 100 or Fortune 500, and that they're neglecting maybe that section of the market, the small to medium-sized businesses?
Well, they're the ones with the marketing spend.
Right.
To sort of put the word out there, and I think I think everybody wants good companies or big companies, reputable companies on their CV, and that's absolutely fine. But I mean, for me, I think my story I always say to people is that I took risks. To get on the journalism course was a risk. I mean, the competition's high to get on it in the first place. They take 30 people a year, and so I felt like I was lucky in that respect. And then when I went on it, I had to take out a loan from the bank to do it. And I was turned down once and I applied again and I got it, and then I didn't actually have enough money for the whole course, but I won a scholarship. So it was all about risk and it was really hard. But I think, some people don't want to put themselves out there, but I think that's always been something that I've been willing to do, and I took the risk. And even now it's like, well, I could play it safe, or I could take a bit of a risk and see how it goes. And I think it's not a real dangerous risk, but it's important to be a bit bolder than you might think. So I guess it's playing it safe, isn't it, to go for the graduate jobs and whatever, but to go for high responsibility but smaller roles and sort of really carve yourself out a niche in an industry is kind of harder and riskier.
It's what we were saying just when we weren't live streaming, and we were saying that graduates now seem to think, we have this career path. If I go for a really large company, then I'll be really safe and that's my career set then. But speaking to loads of people at the Young Conference, everyone kind of moves around in your career. You don't always stay on the same path, and I think that's something that they need to learn, that it isn't you go into this job and you're going to be there for 20 years and you're safe. Everything changes, and you can go into one job, take the skills from there and then transfer it to another job as well.
Now, what about help at the university? And we talked about this in an earlier stream. When you were going to university, you got to go out in the real world. What was your careers office like? Was there any help there? Did they help you prepare that first year? I'm guessing
Did
that's
you
a
even
no.
go there?
I did,
I'm guessing that's a no. We had a story earlier with somebody who went 9 times or whatever, and just still came out with absolutely zero help. And
No.
what was it like for you guys?
I thought it was rubbish. I
Okay.
just, I didn't have,
Can we quantify rubbish?
Well,
Yes.
okay. They wanted me to know what I wanted to do. What I wanted was help in defining what I wanted to do and the kind of roles I could do with the skills and interests that I had.
Perfectly logical set of questions.
And they couldn't do it.
And was that because, not to find out, were they more of my generation or Marion's generation? Were they just not able to
Yeah.
relate to
No.
you
Yeah.
and your generation, or
So
just
they
they
didn't,
just
well,
weren't
they
interested?
didn't understand what I wanted to do, and in
Yeah.
fairness, I didn't understand what I wanted to do. So
Okay.
let's not get too.
No, well,
Well,
that's
it's partially
their job.
yeah.
That's their job, is to trying to get to grips and help you out, right?
Mm.
Yeah. What about for you, and what's it like in Australia? Did
Yeah.
that help?
I didn't.
School ever? Well, you didn't do uni, but you had school.
No, I went to university for 3 years, and I didn't go to the careers advisor. But what I had
Yeah.
was I had a lecturer who just was amazing. She was just this sort of Yoda-like figure who just cut the bullshit basically.
Yeah.
And she told me exactly what it's like out there, And the way I sort of engaged her was asking as many questions as possible.
Yeah.
You know, I'd always put my hand up, always try to say something. I'd try to link the most ridiculous things to what she was saying, just to sort of get in the conversation. She saw that I had a bit of passion, had a bit of energy.
You were the one all the other kids hated then, basically. Because
Yeah. I had really long hair, I wore ridiculous outfits, it's the HR rockstar thing, and they were like, this kid just doesn't, you know, be quiet. But she saw that fire in me, and rather than trying to, you know, put it out, she ignited it, she put fuel on it, and it was that sort of help with someone within industry who said, this is what it's really like, this is where you should go, this is, she gave me that one little push, and the rest has just been following it.
I do think that you were kind of lucky in that though, because I think some people just, you know, they could be very talented and it doesn't get recognised. So I don't know what we can do to help people do that. Maybe people need to take more responsibility and actually, you know, mentor people, because I'm determined that I'm going to mentor the next generation coming in, because I work in an area of publishing that's very modern, very cutting edge. You know, it's as far as I can, you know, as far as I think, it's definitely the future, and I want to educate people on that.
Well, in this global market, is there no, you know, my opinion, there's no excuse of not finding a mentor. Like I put out on my blog, you know, every day that I'm willing to help young HR students who want to get into their career fast, who want to make a difference, who want to, you know, if the textbook doesn't make sense and they want to get, you know, put in the direction of a blog or a magazine article or something else, I'm willing to do that. And with the technology we've got, you can have mentors from all over the world.
But don't you think that we have the technology, but I know a lot of people that are still at university and they're not using these social media tools, they don't know how to apply them. So I come to conferences like this and I'll see people that are in the older generation really using these tools really well for recruiting, and there's some people in our age range that are using it, but there's so many people that aren't, because they see, it is your way of thinking, but a lot of these young people now just see Facebook and just as a personal tool, and they don't see the options that it can open up to them. And I think that's what needs happening. They need educating that there are people out there, they just don't know that, and that's why they're not coming to you. If they knew that, then obviously they'd bite your hand off for that opportunity.
I think the other side of that, when talking about informal mentors versus, you know, the traditional career services office, you obviously got much more out of that relationship than you got out of going to the career office or whatever. And I like to always talk about my first career services test said I should be a test pilot, and I'm like, that's an easy job.
But why didn't you do it?
Just gonna go there. Yeah,
that would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been cool, I guess. But what I think is that, again, like I keep coming back to sort of the accountability. They're never going to be able to find a mentor if they never ask for help. And yes, you're using it for personal use, and it's kind of scary to go out there and say, hey, does anybody use this for work? I mean, not that you would do that on Facebook, but I think we're going to have to get to the point where they have to, where they have to ask for help. Because if one of your friends did, or one of your friends did, or one of your friends did, or if they, took the time to read a blog or a Twitter post that you pulled through Facebook, they would know that. They would sort of know, oh, okay, I can find a mentor through this path. So I think part of it is that spark in you that wants to find those things.
That's
but you're right, training is desperately
But it's educating, I think, as well, linking the career services and universities with employers and having that commercial awareness. Because we run mock assessment centres and also assessment centres for the internship. And when you do commercial awareness and asking them questions about the business community, they're not always aware, and they're not always aware about the mock assessments or how they should write their CV or how they should demonstrate their experience. So we're trying to increase their employability skills by doing these assessments. But I think that's what needs to be more of a closer link, because when I started coming to these true events and I saw how businesses worked, it really opened up my mind, and I never got that at university, so I never realised.
It's true, commercial awareness is really important in every role. I mean, I'm an editor, so obviously you'd expect me to be reporting and so on, which I do, but you need to be commercially aware as well, because you are operating within a business. That's how it is, and I think I realised that maybe a bit earlier than some people, and that's what's differentiated me and what works for me.
So I'm a little worried about the safety bit that you guys have all mentioned, and the reason I say that is not to get too political, but we know we're being faced in 2012 in the UK with the rates that students are going to have to start paying, just rising astronomically, and so of course the big fear of debt is going to be there. I mean, I took out loans when I went to university, and I paid it off at $25 a week. That kind of puts you how far back it must have been, because I'd still be paying it off. But I mean, is this going to change people's attitudes about the kind of job I'm going to go for? If I'm going to have £9,000 a year in debt for 3 years, you know what? I might not be able to go to that startup because they're not going to pay me enough. I'm going to have to go get the red brick job to hopefully make enough money to pay off my loan. Do you think that's going to change how people start thinking about work and what kind of jobs to go for?
Well, some companies, I think it's KPMG, they're actually talking about kind of paying for them through university, and I think you might see more employers kind of paying towards graduates when they go through that course. But obviously you've got the graduates that don't know what they're going to do with the students. Should they still go to university to get those skills now, or should they go more into apprenticeships and obviously kind of get into business that way? That's kind of the question. Well,
that's something that Sir Ken Robinson always talks about, and like, in his famous TED talk, he always says there's sort of this push towards putting people through university. And I know in Australia, if you don't go do an apprenticeship, it's like everyone goes to university. If only for the social aspect, it's just what people do. You're a student. It's that brand. And maybe this is going to change that, Maybe not everyone's going to go, hey, I don't know what I want to do yet, so why put myself through a £9,000 degree straight away? And might force people to work for themselves, think for themselves, try some things out, get commercial experience, and go, all right, now I know where I want to go. Now I'm willing to take that risk. So if anything, I think this could be beneficial.
It makes them think, actually, because like you said, everyone's just like, 18, I'll go to university, and then you kind of deal, and I think that's the thing, students now are unprepared. I know when I did psychology, I didn't really know what I was going to do, and then I finished university and I was like, oh God, I need a job now.
Well, I've always said my 3 sons, they're going to take a year off before they start school. I mean, they have to in order to figure out what they want to do. And you always take university way more seriously when you're paying for it yourself.
Yeah, my godson took his year off 4 years ago, and he's still taking his year off.
Maybe that's not the best strategy.
But he's been doing things that he really enjoys.
Right.
He's gone and he's worked all over the world. And that's a fantastic experience, because he's always going to have that fact that he's lived and worked in Australia, he's lived and worked in Thailand now. He's moved around the UK. So
that's not a year off. That's that is doing something.
I definitely recommend the year off. When I went travelling after university, and I just learned so many transferable skills, it really made me think about what I wanted to do. When I came back, I was so determined. I worked voluntarily for a couple of months to get experience, and just went head first into it, which I think sometimes you don't have that enthusiasm straight after university.
No. Well, I mean, this has been great. I mean, I would say I've taken a phrase from someone's advertising campaign, the future is bright. Sitting here with us. What are you looking for to get from the rest of the day? Anything special that you want to see in the rest of the afternoon here?
Well, I'm using this as a lot of a learning tool. Obviously, there's some bits that I know already. That say, like with LinkedIn and Twitter, there's always stuff you can learn. So I'm using that to kind of as a learning tool, and obviously have a bit of debate as well, because I do like the fact it's so open. You can be speaking to people from massive companies and small companies and have a really lively debate.
All right, Damon, what do you do the rest of the day? Anything special?
Well, considering it took me 24 hours to get here, just meet as many people as possible and become a true sort of global worker and just soak it all up.
Fantastic.
True global worker.
That's
that was an unintentional pun.
Well, and Charlie, when you're not typing away reporting the rest of the day, is any of the tracks that you're saying, hey, this is what I'm really going to learn from today?
Yeah, well, I really, because there's people here from all over the world today, and I'm hoping to get some people on video and talk to a load of people and make some more connections.
Fantastic. And Marion,
networking.
Anything more for this afternoon?
No, I think I'm going to get to know these 3 a little bit better.
I agree. I think this is fantastic. So, from TruLondon, it's been great. Now you've seen us about employability, the generation that's going to save the country and save the world. Not putting too much weight on your shoulders, of course. And don't forget the live streaming is on JSTN and through Jobsite, and it's TruLondon, and for the next sessions, TruQ if you have any questions. Thanks.